Hello everyone, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club, and thank you for spending time with me at my channel. Tonight we're going to take a look at a new board game. I believe it was released in November of 2025, and it's entitled Plague of Dracula. The game's design is by Mike Nagel. I purchased this game from Blue Panther Games, and this is a Solitaire design game, although the game's designer has included optional rules to make the game multiplayer. In this game, we're going to take on the role of characters from Bram Stoker's classic novel, Dracula, as we attempt to hunt the whereabouts of Dracula on the streets of Victorian London. In this video, we're going to take a look at the components that come in the box, and then we're going to learn to set up and play the Solitaire version. So without further ado, let's get started. We'll crack the box open and see what's inside. As we open up the box, we find a 20-page color rulebook. Of those 20 pages, 17 are actual rules for the game. The rest would include the multiplayer rules and some designer's notes. Rules are displayed in a case and point format and doesn't look to be too crowded of text, so it looks like it'll be easy read. The game comes with a deck of 60 event cards and 7 hunter cards. Also included is a black draw bag that we'll be drawing tokens from. Also included is a playmat where we're going to house our event cards and the vampire display. This also lists the sequence of play, hunter actions, the combat sequence, rumor resolution, secular weapons, and occult weapons. Also included is an inventory mat, and here we're going to house our secular weapons and occult weapons. In addition, it lists the special abilities for hunters that will arrive during the game: Quincy Morris, Van Helsing, and Jonathan Harker. Then we have 2 full sheets of 1-inch by 1-inch counters. These include all of our weapons, along with rumor tokens, and our player standees. I'll give you some close-up shots of these so you can appreciate the very nice artwork that's included. And finally, we have a 34 by 22 inch paper map sheet. I'm going to lay this out, put it under the plexi, and we'll take a closer look at it. And here's a shot of the map, and this is under the plexi. Features all of the famous locations in Victorian London, including Carfax Abbey, Purfleet Asylum, Budapest in Hungary, and our character displays along the left-hand side of the board. At the bottom is the turn track, and we're going to be going from August of 1890 through September of 1890. And this is going to be a total of 25 turns. In the lower right-hand corner of the board, we have the Count Dracula display, and that's going to display his current strength. The game includes really nice period photographs of each of the locations on the board, which brings out a lot of the Victorian theme that is the center of this game. The game will end when either the hunters or Dracula achieve an automatic victory, or following the last turn by completing the final confrontation. Dracula achieves an automatic victory either by filling all of the locations on the board with plague or coffin markers at the end of a turn, or by having turned 4 hunters, or by having turned Mina after Harker returns to London, or if there are no hunters remaining to participate in the final confrontation. The hunters will win an automatic victory if all the coffin markers have been discarded from the game by the end of any turn. Failing that, we are going to go to a final confrontation. If neither side has won an automatic victory by the end of the 25th and final turn, Dracula returns to Transylvania with the hunters in hot pursuit. A final battle against Dracula will begin. Now, before we get started with the setup, I think it'd be wise for us to go over the components and find out how we use them. And I'll begin with the map. The map depicts London in the latter part of the Victorian age, and it's been separated into 25 separate locations. Each location is numbered in the upper right corner of its picture. Each location will have one or more paths that will be leading out from it, and those are colored in black, blue, and red. The black travel patterns are the normal travel patterns. They have no significance other than connecting that location to an adjoining location. The blue locations indicate that the travel will involve crossing the Thames. And if you know vampire lore, you know that vampires have trouble crossing running water. So when we're on the south side of the Thames, we have some advantages there, but that depends on where Dracula's minion, Renfield, is located. If he's at Purfleet Asylum, we have some advantages south of the Thames. If he's at Carfax Abbey, he's aiding Dracula and the vampires in crossing that running water. Finally, we have a few red connections. Those are leading into Carfax Abbey. We're not allowed to enter Carfax Abbey. Those lines are there simply to aid us in when it comes time for the plague to spread. Those indicate that they're connected to Carfax Abbey, but we can't cross those red traverse points. There are two special locations inside London proper, and that's Purfleet Asylum and Carfax Abbey. Purfleet Asylum is a regular location on the board, but it also nominally houses, Renfield, which is under the care of Dr. Seward. He can escape from Purfleet Asylum and move to Carfax Abbey, where he has certain advantages there in helping Dracula. The other location is Carfax Abbey. We're going to be storing our plague tokens there, and that's also a location where Renfield can move to. Another special location is the Budapest holding box, and Jonathan Harker is going to begin the game at that location, where he's in convalescence following his escape from Transylvania. Along the bottom of the game map is a 25-space turn track. Each space on the track will indicate a 2-day period, and we're going to be using that track along with these day and night counters. And they're going to, we have certain advantages during the day, and Dracula obviously has certain advantages at night. Now, this turn track is divided into 25 spaces, as I said. You'll see the dates here, August 11th, 13th, 15th. Each one represents 2 days. Certain spaces on the track will refer to Jonathan Harker, and that will be relative to his recovery as he's waiting to recover in Budapest. Next, we'll take a look at some of the tokens that we're going to be using. We'll begin with the Rumor and Miasma tokens. On one side we have Rumor, on the reverse side is Miasma. These tokens are generally placed on the map as a result of searches or random events. Rumors are just that. It's a rumor. We don't know what is there. We could end up getting a search in the draw bag. There could be nothing there. We might get attacked, or we might discover a coffin. On the reverse side of the rumor tokens is a miasma token, and that's just a Victorian term for a wasting disease. In fact, in the United States, they would have called that the wasting disease. It's kind of like tuberculosis. It just means that you're starting to see the effects of Dracula's plague starting to manifest itself on the map. When rumor tokens are not dealt with, they will turn into miasma. During the marker adjustment segment, we're going to be flipping any unresolved rumors to their miasma sides. Miasma is resolved in the same fashion as a rumor. During the marker adjustment segment, we're going to replace the miasma tokens with plague tokens. So it's a progression. You'll start out with a rumor, it will move to miasma, and then eventually to plague. And then those plague tokens will turn eventually into coffins. Another type of token we have are weapons. And in the case of this example, we have a dagger. Now you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner it has +1. That is its combat bonus that you receive if you have that item. On the reverse side of these items are bite marks. If you end up you lose a combat and you take a wound, that token is flipped over and that wound is listed in your player area. Now, those bites can be healed by transfusions. We've got a couple special characters, Dr. Seward and Van Helsing. They can attempt transfusions, and that can remove those bite marks. Another type of weapon is an occult item, and that includes crosses, garlic, holy water, hosts, and wooden stakes. These type of items won't come into play until after Van Helsing appears on the board. But these are real powerful items, and this is probably the only way that we can really get rid of a vampire is with these occult items. The secular items can just basically stave them off, but these items can actually kill them. And in the case of the wood stakes, those will be absolutely necessary to kill a vampire. Next is our event cards. Now, the event cards are not just event cards. They're going to be used for random numbers as well. At the bottom of each event card is a random number generator. It's a very clever method to generate random numbers without having to use a die. In the upper left-hand corner of each card, there is going to be a time check symbol. And it's either going to show night or day. And that'll be referenced during each turn where we need to determine whether it is night or day for that turn. Then there'll always be an event in the middle of the card with some descriptive text. And then finally, at the bottom right-hand corner of the card is the card number, the card ID number. And this is I wish more companies did this. This is a nice way for the owner of the game to find out if he's missing any cards. I've had it in the past where you're supposed to have 60 cards in the deck. You count them out, there's 60, but you find out that there's 2 of the same kind of card, and there should have been a separate card. So this eliminates that from happening. When you do your inventory of the game, when you first get it, you can easily just cycle through these cards and say, well, I've got 1 through 60, and I've got all my cards. So I wish more companies did that. On the lower part of the map is the action phase display, and we're going to use that along with this action token. During the game, we're going to begin with this in the action position. And that tells us that all of the characters are in the process of taking their actions. Once their main actions are done, we move the token to the bonus action, and then all characters that are undamaged, that have no bite markers, can take another supplemental action. Then we have our playmat. Now this is where we're going to organize our event cards. If we have an active event, it would be placed into that position. That tells us that that is the ongoing event. If we are just drawing a card and looking for a random number, that would go into the discard pile after we resolve our random number selection. Now this chart also gives us the sequence of play, the hunter actions, which have to be performed in that order. If we're going to do any cleansings, all of the characters that are planning on doing that must do so at that time. Then we move on to searching, item management, etc. Gives us the combat sequence and then random tables for rumor resolution, random secular weapons, and random occult weapons. Then at the bottom is the vampire display. And this will tell us which creature we are going to be fighting in the event of a combat. It's very simple to do. If it ends up that we have 3 different vampires on the display, we would simply draw a card and look at the random number with 3. In this case, it's a 1. So the creatures of the night would be the active enemy for that combat. Now, there may come a time when some of our characters are turned. They've been turned into a vampire. As an example, we've got Lucy. She could easily be turned into a vampire. She starts the game with 1 bite already. So in this case, if we're looking for a random vampire, we would simply be using the random number 4 in the 4 column. So we would check the chart, look under 4, and in this case, 4 is the random number. So in that case, we would be facing the vampire version of Lucy. And this is the inventory mat. Now we're going to begin the game. When we start setting this up, we're going to divide all of our tokens by type and place them in each of their respective spots. As an example, we've got our daggers and revolvers here. These are our occult items such as holy water, crosses, garlic, etc. And finally, we have our player character tokens. There's going to be 7 of them with a blue base and 1 with a black base. The black base is going to be Dracula's minion, Renfield. So that will give us a basic understanding of how the components are going to work in the game. There's more complexity involved in those, but that gives you the basics behind them. We're going to begin now with the game setup, and we'll find out how to set up the game. We start out with hunter placement, and other than Jonathan Harker, we're going to place each hunter in their respective home locations per the home location icons on the hunter status tracks. So as an example, we have Mina Harker. So checking the display for Mina Murray, yet to become Mina Harker, we find out that the number in her portrait is a 4, so that will correspond to space 4 on the map. So we'll place her standee in that location. Dr. Seward will begin the game at Purfleet Asylum. You'll notice there's a little cross there, and that's a medical cross, and we'll place Dr. Seward there. Lucy will begin at St. Pancras. Arthur Holmwood will begin in the location Belgravia. Morris and Van Helsing will begin on the arrival track. Morris will start in 3, as is listed on the track, and Van Helsing will start in 1. As soon as a character moves up to 6, they can be deployed into their home location. Quincy Morris is going to begin the game with 2 items. He begins with a kukri, which is an Indian knife, and a revolver. So we'll just place those on his display. He doesn't actually have those yet until he deploys to the map. His home province or location is Chelsea. But we'll give those to him now so we don't forget about that later. Then we place Jonathan Harker in Budapest. He's just escaped from Castle Dracula, and he's been pretty much drained by the brides of Dracula, and he's in recovery in that location. And finally, we're going to place Renfield in the holding box at Purfleet Asylum. He's currently under the care of Dr. Seward, and we'll place him there for the time being. He'll primarily move between Purfleet Asylum and Carfax Abbey. We'll place our turn markers, both the day and night markers, near the turn track. They'll be used a little later. At the beginning of the game, we'll place Count Dracula, his strength token, on number 10. It tells you that he has a strength of 3. As he takes damage from various events, his strength will start dropping. But he begins at level 10. Next, we'll move to Carfax Abbey, and we're going to place our Plague and Coffin tokens in the holding area provided. There's quite a few of those, so I'm going to stretch those out a bit. On one side is the plague symbol, which you can see there. The reverse side are the coffins. Next, we're going to set up our inventory sheet, and I basically separated all of the tokens into the different types and placed them in their corresponding slots on the chart. You'll notice that we have the rumor and miasma tokens on this chart as well. They're not considered to be an item, but we have a space there where we can store them, and that's where I'm going to keep them. Next, we're going to build our search bag. To begin the game, we're going to place 4 daggers in the search bag, along with 1 kukri and a revolver. In addition, we're going to also place 1 rumor token in the bag as well. So we're going to put those in the bag, give them a good shuffle, and that'll be our search bag for the game. And finally, we're going to get our event deck, place that in the event deck slot. I've shuffled these through the card shuffler. We'll give that a cut, and that is going to be our event deck to start the game. The other tokens that we have that we're not using for the time being are these turn tokens for the characters. We'll just keep those off to the side, and in the event that Dracula turns one of the characters, they would be placed on the vampire display, as I indicated earlier. Our last step is to place the action token in the action space, and the game is now set and we're ready to play. Alright, so we're ready to begin our example of play. Now, I have not played this game yet. You and I are going to be learning this as we play. So we're going to consult our sequence of play, and the first entry is the time check. So we're going to turn over a random event card and consult that corner of the card that'll tell us what it is. Now that's daylight, so we're going to place a daylight marker on turn 1. So we'll place the daylight marker on turn 1. Step 2 is the arrival advance. It says move each hunter on the arrival track up 1 space. A hunter in the 6th space is placed as follows. And they give you instructions for Quincy Morris, Van Helsing, or other hunters. So each of these are going to move up 1 on the chart. That represents them racing to London to help us. Step 3 is the Renfield status step. It says Renfield, Dracula's bug-eating minion, is located in either Purfleet Asylum or Carfax Abbey. Each location notes the random results that move him from one location to the other. We're going to draw a card from the event deck and check the number result. If that value falls within the spread of numbers shown at his current location, move him to the other location. If both Renfield and Dr. Seward are at Purfleet Asylum when the status check is made, use the 1 to 2 option, thus making it harder for Renfield to slip away. So we'll draw a random event card and check the die number result. And in this case, it is a 6. So it does not fall within the range. In this case, 1 to 2, because Dr. Seward is present. So in this case, Renfield will remain in Purfleet Asylum. Next is our event draw step. It says draw a card from the event deck and complete the event as described in its text. If the effects of the event last throughout the turn, place the card in the active event space of the playmat. Otherwise, discard the card after completing it. So let's see what our first card is. This one is God's Tools. That says any one hunter that occupies one of the following locations may select either a cross, host, or holy water as an additional search that is part of the current action. And those locations would be Marylebone, St. Pancras, St. Luke's, St. George in the east, or St. Olav and Southwark. Okay. Well, one of our characters, in this case Lucy, is at St. Pancras. So she'll be able to take advantage of that God's Tools event card. All right, we're going to leave that card out so that we don't forget about that extra action that we have available to us. Next in line in the sequence of play is the Harker Arrival step. And that says, beginning on the 7th turn, there is a chance that Jonathan Harker is sufficiently recovered from his escape from Dracula's Carpathian lair to resume his journey back to London. Well, we're not at turn 7 yet, so we'll skip that step. Step 6 is our Plague spread segment. And that reads, during the 6th step of this sequence of play, plague may spread through the placement of plague markers. Markers are drawn from one or more stacks created during the setup process and may not be examined when placed. First step of that is to determine the plague strength. The number of plague markers placed is based on Dracula's strength at that moment. Draw a card from the event deck and examine the number under the column equal to Dracula's strength. The resulting number is the number of markers placed during that turn. All right. So we'll examine the number under Dracula's counter, and he's in location 10, and his strength is 3. So we'll be consulting an event card draw, getting a random number using the 3 column. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So examining 3, we find out that 2 plague markers are going to be placed during this turn. And for the placement, it says plague markers are placed according to a list of priorities noted below. Each priority must be fulfilled before the next priority can be selected. Plague may not be placed into a location marked with rumor or miasma. And the first criteria is surrounded. A location that is surrounded by adjacent locations marked with plague or coffin markers or Carfax Abbey must receive a new plague marker first, regardless of occupation by a hunter. Step 2 of that is adjacency. A plague marker must then be placed in an unoccupied location that is adjacent to a location that is already marked with a plague marker or coffin marker or Carfax Abbey. So we'll be placing 2 plague markers, and they're going to have to be in between these 3 locations, 5, 6, and 15. Those are the ones that are connected to Carfax Abbey. So we have a total of 3 possible locations that plague can spread to, and we'll be placing 2 during this plague segment. So what we'll do is we'll get a random number here, 1, 2, 3. And whichever one comes up, that will be the location that will not receive a plague token. So let's take a look. On the card draw, we've got looking under 3, it's location 2. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, we're going to be placing a plague marker in Hackney and 1 in Poplar. Bethnal Green will not get one. It's an easy way to determine random locations. Our next segment is the action phase. And that says, during the action segment, each hunter, regardless of his or her status, may perform 1 action. Following these actions, hunters that have no bites may perform 1 bonus action. Use the action marker to note which type of action is being completed. All right, we're going to start with our standard actions. And the actions that are available include the following. We have cleansing. Any hunters that occupy a location with a coffin may attempt to cleanse the location if at least 1 hunter holds a garlic wreath. All hunters in the location must participate in the cleansing attempt. It constitutes their action. Declaring a cleansing attempt immediately triggers combat. If a hunter holding a garlic wreath survives the combat, discard the coffin marker and replace it with the garlic wreath. The location is now immune to plague. The next hunter action is searching. A hunter may spend his or her action searching for weapons as long as they have at least 1 unmarked box on his or her status track. This may be done in one of three ways. We can search the bag. A hunter looking for a weapon while occupying a space with a plague or coffin marker must draw an item at random from the search bag. The item drawn from the bag is replaced in the bag with the same item from the inventory if available. If not available, place a rumor miasma marker in the bag instead. If a rumor or miasma marker is drawn, return it to the bag and immediately place a rumor marker in the location occupied by the searching hunter. If the rumor marker cannot be placed, initiate combat in that location against the searching hunter. As a part of that search action, we also can have secular weapons. A hunter occupying an unmarked or cleansed location may search for a secular weapon using the secular weapon search table on the playmat. Draw a card from the event deck and check the number column. Look up the result on the table to determine what has been found. Note that the result could require a pull from the search bag as described above. If a rumor miasma marker is drawn, place it in the unmarked location or return it to the search bag if the location has been cleansed. If it's occult weapons, once Van Helsing has arrived in London, a hunter occupying an unmarked or cleansed location may search for an occult weapon using the occult weapon search table on the playmat. Once again, we would draw a card and check the die result column. Look up the result on the table to determine what has been found. A found item is placed in the leftmost space and is not occupied by a bite marker. A hunter without an open space on their tracks cannot search. All right, so that is the situation regarding that search option. Another action is item management. Once hunters start searching for weapons, they may run out of spaces on their search tracks to hold them. They may then spend an action performing one of the following. They can either return the weapon, they can give the weapon to another hunter in their space, or they can rearrange their weapons. A hunter can rearrange the weapons on the status track, noting that bites are placed from left to right on the status track. The leftmost weapons are the more vulnerable to elimination in combat. Another action is movement. As a standard action, a hunter can move a number of adjacent locations equal to the small number noted under the first space of their status track that does not hold a bite marker. For example, Mina Murray could move up to 2 locations when she has no bites, or just 1 space if she has been bitten once. A hunter who receives 2 bites cannot move at all. So examining Mina's display, we find out that that is correct. If she has no bites, she would have a movement of 2. If she has 1 bite, it would be a movement of 1. Or if she has 2 bites, she would have no movement capability at all. Now, when a character undertakes a movement action, there are several things that can occur depending upon what is in the space of the area that they're moving to. If there's an obstacle, a hunter must stop upon entering a location containing a plague or coffin marker. A hunter that enters a location containing a plague marker immediately flips the marker to its coffin side and checks for combat by drawing a card from the event deck and checking the coffin column. If the result is equal to or less than the number of coffins noted on the marker, combat will occur immediately. Another action available is transfusions. If Dr. Seward or Van Helsing share a location with a bitten hunter, or the hunter is located at Purfleet Asylum, an attempt to heal a bite may be made. And as we can see at the location of Purfleet Asylum, it says transfusion attempt. If it's the first bite, numbers between 1 and 3, second bite between 1 and 2. And those abilities are noted on the displays for Van Helsing. He has the medical bag there as a reminder that he can participate in that transfusion action, as well as Dr. Seward. He has the medical bag symbol near his portrait. Now, two characters have some special movement abilities. Those include Arthur Holmwood and Quincy Morris. Arthur Holmwood travels in style in a fancy carriage. This allows him to transport up to 3 additional hunters with him. The hunters must all begin in the same location. Additionally, the hunters that cannot move due to suffering 2 bites may still be transported with Holmwood. This constitutes a move action for all hunters involved. Then we have Quincy Morris, and he has the Mustang. That allows him quite a bit of movement points. He gets 4 for that. It says Quincy Morris rides a Mustang that allows him greater mobility, hence his increased movement rate. And the final action that is available to the hunters is Rumor Resolution. A hunter that occupies a location containing a rumor or miasma marker may attempt to resolve it by drawing a card from the event deck and checking the number column. Reference the result on the Rumor Resolution chart on the playmat. So those are the actions that are available to the characters. Each character can perform 1 action. Following this base action, we move to the bonus portion of the action phase, and then any unwounded character can perform a bonus action, which will include cleansing, searching, movement, or rumors and miasma resolution. Now, at the start of the game, none of the characters on the board have any weapons, so I think it's important for us to probably try to acquire some weapons. Now, we can't obtain any occult weapons until Van Helsing gets on the board, with the exception of this God's Tools card that we have out on the board. It's an active card. This says that any one hunter that occupies one of the following locations may select either a cross, host, or holy water as an additional search that is part of the current action. And we have Lucy in St. Pancras, so she'll be able to utilize that extra action there. So as all of our characters are currently in unmarked locations, I think we're going to have them do some search actions. I think I'll begin with Arthur Holmwood. He is in his home location of Belgravia. So I think he's going to do a search action there. So he's going to attempt to find a secular weapon. So what we're going to do then is we're going to consult the secular weapons table, and we're going to draw a random number. And we'll see what we get. In this case, our random number is a 3. So we'll check the table and see what 3 has for us. 3 on secular weapons is search draw bag. Okay, so we're going to get a random draw from the search bag. So we'll get our search bag out and we'll draw a token out of there and see what we get. Okay, in this case he has a dagger. All right. So Arthur Holmwood is going to keep that dagger, and what we're going to do then is take a dagger from the supply and replace that into the search bag. So we'll take a dagger from our supply and put that into the search bag. Now Arthur can take that dagger and add that to his display. So we'll place the dagger on his display in the leftmost box. It gives him a +1 to combat. And I think to help me remember when I take these actions for each of our hunters, we're going to turn the token sideways, and then that'll let me know that I've completed the action for them. Let's move on to Lucy now. She's up in St. Pancras. All right, Lucy is also going to undertake a search action. Now, she has this ability using the God's Tools card that is active. She is in St. Pancras, so she can take either a cross, host, or holy water as an additional search that is part of the current action. So let's take a look at what those items do so we can have a better idea of the value of each of those items. While checking the items, the cross allows an attack cancellation. If a hunter in the location holds a cross, it may be used to cancel the undead's current attack. The hunter still attacks. Tip the cross marker on its side to indicate its use. The host would allow us that if a hunter in the location holds a host, it can be discarded to cancel all attacks in the location. Hunters have one opportunity to damage Dracula or kill a vampire before all flee. Discard the host marker after use. And finally, we have Holy Water. It adds 1 to the hunter's strength if a hunter in the location holds holy water. The marker is discarded after use. If a weapon is removed from a space to the left of other weapons held, the other weapons are immediately shifted to the left to close gaps on the hunter's status track. All right. Now it should be noted that occult items normally can't get into the game until Van Helsing arrives on the board. But in the rules, it says that in the event that event cards conflict with the standard rules, the event cards control. So in this case, Lucy's going to undertake a search for secular weapons, but she's going to use this God's Tools card, and I think we're going to get her a cross that seems to make the most sense. It's a reusable item, and I think that will probably help us the most. So I'm going to give Lucy a cross from the supply, and we'll put that on her display. So now we will undertake Lucy's search for a secular weapon. We'll draw a card and reference the secular weapons table. In this case, her search number is 4. So let's check the table with 4. And that says, search the draw bag. Okay, so we're going to have to search the draw bag once again. See if Lucy can find something. Okay, here is the draw from the bag. And she gets, uh-oh, that's a rumor token. All right. Okay, so that says what we're supposed to do is return that token to the bag. It's actually a rumor token. Turn that to the bag, and then we will take a rumor token from the supply and place that in her location. All right. And that's going to complete Lucy's turn. We'll pivot her on the display so we know we've done her action. Next up is Mina. Mina is also going to do a search for secular weapons. We'll consult the table and draw a card. And this time, her number is a 4. Once again, that is going to be a search draw bag. So we will do that. Okay. Draw the token. And this time she gets a revolver. Very interesting. So we'll give Mina the revolver. Now this revolver has a +3 to combat. That's pretty good. So we'll put that onto Mina's display. That'll finish her turn. And all we have left now is Dr. Seward at Purfleet Asylum. And Dr. Seward, I think, is also going to do a search. And we'll tip his token, and we'll draw a search card and see what he gets. In this case, his number is 5. And a 5 on the secular weapons table is a dagger. So we will give him a dagger from the supply. We'll add that to his display. So all of our hunters have taken their actions. We'll move on now to the bonus part of the action phase. We'll tip all of our characters back into position. And now all the unwounded characters can take a bonus action. The only character that is wounded is Lucy. She received a bite from Dracula at the start of the game, and that's what basically set off this adventure. So all of our other characters can take a bonus action. That's cleansing, searching, movement, or resolution of a rumor or miasma. And I think we will start with, we have to do these in order: cleansing, searching, movement, and rumor resolution. I think all of the characters that we have are going to undertake movement. So we'll begin with Arthur Holmwood. He has a movement of 3 with his carriage. So we can have him move up to 3 spaces. Now we've got this rumor token up in St. Pancreas. So I'm not sure what we should be doing with that. It's going to be flipping to a miasma token during the next step of the turn sequence. That's the marker adjustment phase. So I think we might want to get Arthur up to that location. So we're going to have him move 3. 1, 2, and 3 into St. Pancreas. I think Mina will also do the same. We'll have her move into that location. We'll be able to take advantage of Arthur's carriage, where he can move up to 3 additional characters with him. They can all conduct their move action together. Finally, we have Dr. Seward. Now, Dr. Seward is at Purfleet Asylum. If we keep him there, the advantage is it puts a little bit of a hold on Renfield from being able to move to Carfax Abbey and cause havoc for us. So in reality, I probably should have had Dr. Seward do his search action before we participated in our movements. Since we're just starting this game, I'm going to supersede this and will allow Dr. Seward to undertake a search action at Purfleet Asylum. But he should have done that first in order, and then the movements should have occurred. So we'll undertake a search at Purfleet Asylum. And the card number on this is number 1. Okay, checking the chart for secular weapons, it says nothing found. All right, that brings all of their actions and bonus actions to a close. The next step in the sequence of play is marker adjustment. All right, during the marker adjustment step, it says after all actions have been completed, complete the following housekeeping steps. First is unresolved miasma. Replace any unresolved miasma markers with plague markers or coffin markers if in a location occupied by 1 or more hunters. A placed coffin marker immediately triggers combat. Then we go to unresolved rumors. Flip unresolved rumors to their miasma sides. All right, so there is one of those out on the board. And at St. Pancras, we have a rumor token there. So according to this step, it says we should flip that to its miasma side. So we will do so. That means that the population in that area is starting to feel the effects of Dracula's presence. The next sub-step of that marker adjustment phase would be crosses. We would restore any crosses that were used in combat to their upright position. Well, we haven't used any. Lucy does have a cross. Finally, the active event is discarded. And we will discard that God's Tools card. And that would usher in the end of the turn. We're going to move the turn marker to the next box on the turn track and exchange the turn marker and adjust Dracula's strength if necessary. So we'll advance the turn marker to turn 2, and then we're going to start the sequence of play once again, beginning with the time check. So we'll draw a card and look at the upper left-hand corner and see what it says. In this case, it is a daylight. So consulting the rules, it says replace a night marker on the turn track with the day 1 marker. If the day 1 marker is already on the track, flip it to its day 2 side. So that's what we'll do. We flip the day marker to its 2 side. Now what will happen in the next turn is, since we're on day 2, it says this is an extended period. If the turn marker is on its night 2 or day 2 side, do not draw a time check card. Instead, replace the marker with its opposite on its 1 side. Day 2 would become night 1. Night 2 would become day 1. Additionally, we would have what's known as extended day. We would move Dracula's strength marker down 1 space on his track. If already in the 1 space, we would remove a plague marker. If no plague markers are available to remove, there is no additional effect. If it were extended night, we would move Dracula's strength marker up 1 space on his track. If already on the 10 space, Dracula attacks the hunter with the most bites. If tied, he attacks Lucy before checking randomly for a victim. All right. Next, we move on to our arrival advance, and each of the characters are going to move up the track one space. So Morris is now at 5. He's one turn away from arriving on the board. Next is Renfield's status. We're going to draw a card and determine if it falls within the range listed for Renfield. If it does, he will move, in this case, to Carfax Abbey. Now we have Dr. Seward at Purfleet Asylum, so we'll be using the red display. We need a result of 1 or 2 to move Renfield. So we'll look on the die symbol on the card, and that says it's a 3. So Renfield will remain in his cell in Purfleet Asylum. Next is our event card phase. We'll draw the top card and see what the event is. In this case, it is Strange Rumors. Strange rumors reported in Bethnal Green. Residents reported that the reflections had vanished from mirrors and windows. Images were replaced by that of an old man with a terrible and hateful visage. Place a rumors marker in the Bethnal Green location. 6. If a marker is in this location, the hunter with the most bites is attacked. Okay, well, let's find that location. So Bethnal Green is a few spaces away from where our characters are in St. Pancras. We're going to place a rumor token from the supply in Bethnal Green. Our next step would be the Harker arrival step. We're not on turn 7 yet, so we will pass on that. Next is the plague spread. So we're going to consult Dracula's strength. We find out that his strength is still at 3. So we'll be drawing a random number using the 3 column to find out how many plague tokens will be placed. And in this case, consulting the 3, there will be 3 of them. All right. So we're going to be placing 3 plague tokens. And now we got to go through the procedure of positioning them according to what is listed in the rule book. We'll place them according to the list of priorities that are noted. The rules state that plague markers cannot be placed in a location marked with a rumor or miasma token. So we won't be able to place any at Bethnal Green. So we'll have to go through our priority list, and it looks like adjacency is the next in the list. A plague marker must then be placed in an unoccupied location that is adjacent to a location that is already marked with a plague or coffin marker or Carfax Abbey. So those markers will have to be placed. We've got 3 of them. So we're going to have to place them. The possibilities would be Islington, Mile End Old Town, Limehouse, or Purfleet Asylum. Those are the places that the tokens could go. So we've got a total of 4 separate locations that the markers could go, and we're going to be placing 3. So I'll just take a card and we will determine which location will not get a plague marker. I think that's the easiest. So we'll set it up as 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll check our 4 column, and that says it's 3. So 1, 2, 3. Limehouse will be the only location that does not receive a plague token at this point. So we'll place them in all of the other locations around the board that we had indicated before. I'm pretty sure that Purfleet Asylum is subject to plague. I suppose I better check to see if that is outlined in the rules at all. No, there's nothing prohibiting that plague from moving into Purfleet Asylum from what I'm reading in the rules. So this will be our plague spread segment. We'll move on to our action phase. Now I have one question with the rules. I'm not sure of this. It's called plague conversion. It says a hunter that enters a location containing a plague marker immediately flips the marker to its coffin side and checks for combat by drawing a card. Now, Dr. Seward didn't enter the space. The plague entered into his space. So I don't know if he remains there is that considered moving into the space and where he has to convert that plague? Or, because that's going to affect whether I'm going to move him or not. I'll see if I can find that in the rules. Well, I can't find anything in the rules regarding that. It clearly says a hunter that enters a location containing a plague marker. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen per the rules. So in that case, I think we'll have Dr. Seward do a search, but the problem with that is I don't know if you can search in a place with plague. Well, I think we're going to undertake a search with Mina at St. Pancras. Now there's that miasma token there. I wonder if I should deal with that first. Yeah, what I'm thinking of doing is leaving Lucy at St. Pancras to deal with the miasma token, and then Holmwood and Mina will travel to Islington and investigate that plague that's happening there. The advantage of Mina, she has that pistol, which is 3+ to combat. Holmwood would have a +1 dagger as well. So I think that might be the way to do it. We have to do the search first, then we move to item management, and then movement is next. So we're going to move, using the carriage, Holmwood and Mina to Islington. And it says here, a hunter that enters a location containing a plague marker immediately flips the marker to its coffin side and checks for combat by drawing a card from the event deck. So we're going to flip that to its coffin side. And in this case, we found 3 coffins there. Okay. So we're going to check the coffin column. And if the result is equal to or less than the number of coffins, combat will occur. So let's do that. So we're going to check the coffin column, and in this case, coffin column is a 2. 2 is less than 3, so there will be a combat, it looks like. So this is going to be our first combat, and we'll read about this. In this case, it is a combat trigger by plague conversion. When a hunter enters a plague space and flips the marker to its coffin side, combat may occur. Okay, we got to see if there is, we already checked to see if there was combat. The number was less than the number of coffins, so that's true. So we will go to combat resolution. It says when combat is triggered, it is resolved immediately. All hunters in the location are involved in the combat, and combat cancels any untaken actions by those hunters. Combat continues in successive rounds until either the undead attacker or the hunters are driven off. Following steps must be taken to resolve a round of combat. We begin with the undead attacker. Unless specified by an event card, draw randomly to determine which undead creature is attacking. Draw an event card and refer to the column equal to the number of foes on the vampire display. The resulting number refers to the attacking creature. The base strength of the attacking creature depends upon its nature. All right, let's do that. All right, there are a total of 3 different creatures on the vampire display, so we'll be looking for a random number using the 3 column. And let's see who it is. In this case, the 3 column is a 1, and that's going to be creatures of the night. All right, let's read about them. And that says, the base strength is an unmodified 1, and that's what's indicated up in the corner of the display there. This value is never increased. Their base strength on the player aid is colored black to note this exception. Okay. All right, so we're going to be battling against creatures of the night. They have a strength of 1 that cannot be modified, so I'll put a small die there with a 1 to mark that for us. The next step in the combat sequence is to determine the hunter and strength with the use of holy water if available. Okay, to determine the hunter that is going to be involved, it says the following. If the attack was triggered by a search, the searching hunter is attacked first. Otherwise, the hunter with the most bites is always attacked first. In the case of ties, Lucy is attacked if in the location. Otherwise, the player selects the hunter. He or she is not chosen randomly. The first hunter flees. If the first hunter flees or is turned after a round of combat, the second hunter is selected as if the strength was not triggered by a search. Okay, the hunter's base strength is 1. A hunter with 2 bites may not take part in the combat, but may be the target. Increase the value as follows. Secular weapons. Add the highest strength bonus provided by all secular weapons held by all hunters in the location. 1 weapon. Well, in this case, it'll be Mina's pistol that she has, the revolver. It'll give her 3. So we'll mark her with a 3 for right now. And then she has her base strength of 1, it appears. So that would be a total of 4. So we'll mark her with 4. The next step is to begin the combat. If we had a cross or host, we could use that. That would prevent the combat from affecting us, and we would get 1 combat round against the enemy. That won't happen in this case. So we're going to resolve the combat, the undead first. If Renfield is at Carfax Abbey, well, he is not. It says that combat is not simultaneous. The hunters draw a card first unless Renfield is at Carfax Abbey, in which case the undead draw a result first. All right, so what we do is we're going to draw a random card, and we're going to check the bat column. If the result is equal to or less than that side's modified strength, the hit is applied. All right, let's do that. So Mina has a combat strength of 4. We check the bat result, and she has a 5, so she has missed. We'll do the same for the creatures of the night. In this case, using the bat symbol, they have a 3. Their strength is a 1, so we have 2 misses. No one did any hits to each other. So we're going to return to step 2. And we'll do the same thing. Mina is going to use her revolver against the creatures of the night, and she will go first. So we're going to draw another card and check the bat number. In this case, the number is a 2, so she has successfully hit the creatures of the night. And it says here, a hit upon an undead attacker drives it away. If Dracula was attacking, move his strength marker 1 space down his strength track, unless Renfield is at Carfax Abbey. In this case, the hit is ignored and Renfield is moved to Purfleet Asylum. In this fashion, Dracula may stick around for another round of combat despite being hit by a hunter. Then ending the combat. If, after any round of combat, at least 1 hunter and the undead still occupy the combat location, we would fight additional rounds. If only the undead remain standing, they fade to harass hunters at a later date or location. If only the hunters are left standing, evil flees. Neither creatures of the night nor infected can be destroyed per se. There are a lot more of them hunting London. Dracula cannot be killed until the final confrontation. He has fled into the darkness. If the hunters have defeated a turned vampire, it may be destroyed by discarding a wooden stake marker held by a surviving hunter. The vampire marker is removed from the vampire display. So all we've done is basically turned that creatures of the night away. And we managed to do it without taking any wounds. That's great. All right, so that completes the movement of both Mina and Holmwood. So we'll turn their tokens to show that we have conducted their actions. In this case, it was a move action. That revealed 3 coffins. Next is Dr. Seward, and I'm not sure what to do because I'm not sure what happens when a plague token appears in the space that he's at rather than moving into the space. I think for the sake of gameplay, I'm going to have him move. He has a movement value right now of 2. So I'll have him move to St. George in the east. 1, 2. Our final action is going to be with Lucy. And Lucy is in a space with a miasma token. So I'm going to have her conduct that rumor resolution, I believe. So we'll bring up the rumor miasma resolution table, and then we're going to draw a card and look on the die symbol to tell us what happens. Okay, in this case it is a 6. That is the number there. And a 6 on that rumor resolution says coffin. And that says place a coffin marker in the location. The placement does not trigger combat. So we'll take a coffin plague token to its coffin side and place that in St. Pancras. Now that is also 3 coffins located there. Okay. So that will complete Lucy's action. And now we will move on to our bonus actions for the teams. Okay, our bonus actions can include the following. We can undertake cleansing, searching, movement, or resolving rumors and miasma. Now without a wreath of garlic, we can't destroy these coffins. So I don't think we want to stay there. So I guess in the bonus action, we will have Holmwood and Mina take a move. Dr. Seward will probably do a search there in St. George in the east. And then for Lucy, she's in a space with the coffins. She can't move though because she is wounded, so she doesn't get any bonus actions. She just has that cross. So it looks like until Van Helsing appears on the board, we're not really going to be able to do anything with these coffins because we can't get the garlic, which is a secular item. I'm sorry, which is a occult item. So, I'm not sure what to do. Well, I guess we'll begin with the search actions, and I'll have Dr. Seward do a search in St. George in the east. So we'll consult the secular weapons table and take a card number. In this case, it's a 5. A 5 is a dagger. Okay, well, there's no daggers left in the supply, so I guess we don't get anything. I did just find something that'll help to explain at least the searching aspects. A hunter looking for a weapon while occupying a space containing a plague or coffin marker must draw an item at random from the search bag. So that would explain that. I guess we could have had Dr. Seward stay at Purfleet Asylum and he could have performed the search, even though there's a plague token there. He would have just been drawing it from the bag. All right. Well, the rules for secular weapons state that it does not tell us what happens if there is no token left in the reserves. So I guess we just don't get any for Dr. Seward. Okay, Lucy is unable to take a bonus action, but Mina and Holmwood can. And I think they'll take a move action, and we'll get out of that location with the coffins. We can't do anything without a garlic wreath. So the movement value using his carriage is 3. So I guess we will have them move 1, 2, 3 into Holborn. We'll do that. It'll get some space between us and the plague tokens that will be spreading, no doubt, in the next turn. So that completes the bonus actions. We'll move on now to marker adjustment. So that's our cleanup phase. We didn't use the cross, and we have no unresolved rumors on the board. We do have one, and that is located at Bethnal Green, so we have to deal with that. So that rumor token at Bethnal Green is going to be flipped to its miasma side. That's what will happen. Then finally, we're going to advance the turn track. Now it says here, move the turn marker in the next box on the turn track per rule 3.13 extended period. Exchange the turn marker and adjust Dracula's strength if necessary. So that will be happening in this case because we have an extended daylight situation happening. So during the extended day, we're going to replace that with its opposite side. Day 2 would become night 1. So we are going to move that to a Night 1 situation for turn 3. But during that extended day period, it says move Dracula's strength marker down 1 space on his track. So we will do that as well. So Dracula will be moved down to level 9, which is still 3 strength. All right, so that completes the first 2 turns, and we'll move on to turn 3, which is a night turn. I'm going to, I think, log on to BGG, and I'm going to see if there's some answers to a few questions I have. Namely, so far the only questions that I'm uncertain about are what happens if a plague marker appears in your space. That's one thing. I'm not 100% sure of that. It appears that you can, it's based on movement. It's pretty clearly written there, but I'd like a little clarification on that. The other one is what happens if you roll on a weapons table and there's none left in the supply. I guess you get nothing, but I don't know that. So I'm going to check those things, and then we'll return for turn 3. Well, in consulting the BGG site, I did get an answer regarding Purfleet Asylum. The designer had chimed in to a question that there was on the site, and it ends up that Purfleet Asylum is a special location that's immune to the plague. So we should have never placed the plague token there. It would have went into Limehouse instead. So I would have just left Dr. Seward at Purfleet Asylum, and he would have performed his search there, and that would have been how that would have progressed. So we're ready for turn 3. It's a night turn now. All right, we were coming off of an extended day period, so the counter was shifted to night. We don't have to draw a card to resolve the time check. It's going to automatically be a night turn for turn 3 in this case. So we'll move on to the arrival advance. So each of the characters will advance on the arrival track, and Morris now is going to reach space 6. So I believe that means he comes out on the board. He's arrived in London. And checking the Hunter Arrivals portion, on the player card for Quincy Morris, it says place Morris in Chelsea, space 24, if not marked with a coffin or plague. Otherwise, place in any starting location. Note, add a kukri knife and revolver to the Morris status track during setup. All right. And so we've done that for Quincy Morris. I've placed the kukri in position 1 and the revolver in position 2. Reason, excuse me, being is if he is wounded, we flip that over and that becomes a bite mark. That item is no longer available. So you want to kind of guard your items if possible. So you use your least valuable items closest to the left-hand side of the track. And so we're going to place Quincy Morris in Chelsea. That is his home location. Next is our Renfield status, and he's currently being monitored by Dr. Seward, so we're looking for a result in the 1 to 2 range in order for Renfield to escape the asylum. His number is, in this case, a 3, so he will remain in Purfleet Asylum, which is where we like him. Next is our event draw. Let's see what happens. This time it is thickening fog. A thick blanket of fog has settled over the city, blocking out nearly all sunlight. Replace the turn marker with its night version. If the first night turn side of the night turn marker is already showing, flip the marker to its second night side. All right, well, that is what's going to happen. So it says here reshuffle the card deck. Okay, so let's take care of this. So we're going to shift this from night 1 to night 2, and there'll be an extended night condition during the turn. Now we're going to shuffle our event deck. All right, so we have shuffled our event deck. Now we'll move on to the next step, Harker Arrival. Well, we're not on level 7 or turn 7 yet, so we won't have to worry about that. Next is the Plague Spread. So we're to consult Dracula's track. We find out that he's still at strength of 3, so we'll be drawing a card to determine how many plague markers will be placed. And we'll look on the 3 column. In this case, the 3 column is 3, so we'll be placing 3 more plague tokens. So we'll get out 3 tokens to place, and then we have to determine how they're going to be placed. So we're going to search the adjacent areas to see how these are going to be placed. The one in Hackney cannot be placed in Islington, and it cannot be placed in the miasma token at Bethnal Green. So it looks like there'd be one in St. Luke's. We'll put a number 1 there for now. Number 2 would be Whitechapel. 3 would be St. George in the East. And those are really the only places it can go. We cannot cross the Thames with the plague because Renfield is not in Carfax Abbey. So that one would be eliminated from the mix. So I guess they're going to go into these 3 locations. We don't have to even make a random determination. So we'll place 1 in each of these locations. All right, next up is going to be the player actions, and now we have a brand new character who just arrived, Morris. He's equipped with a Mustang, which gives him 4 movement points. He's got the most movement out of all of the characters. All right, so we're going to undertake our hunter actions. We can't do any cleansing because we don't have the wreaths. So next would be searching, and Morris has a weapon. Everybody has weapons right now, at least, if nothing else, a cross for Lucy. Everybody else has at least a knife or a kukri or a revolver. So I think what we'll try to do is start to contain this plague by investigating these locations. Now the exception is Dr. Seward. He's kind of trapped in Purfleet Asylum, so I'm not sure what to do with him. But what we can do is conduct some moves, I guess. So I'm going to start with Quincy Morris in Chelsea. He has a movement value of 4. So we'll have him move 1, 2, 3, 4 into Whitechapel. All right. And then Mina, along with Arthur Holmwood in his carriage, I think they'll move into St. Luke's. So that'll be our movement. And then as for Lucy, she has a movement level of 1 right now. So I guess we'll have her move into St. Marylebone. Well, maybe not. I'll have her move into Clerkenwell. All right. And during that movement, it says, Plague Conversion. A hunter that enters a location containing a plague marker immediately flips the mark into its coffin side and checks for combat. So we'll do that. We'll start out with Morris in Whitechapel. This one has a single coffin there. All right, so we're going to draw a card, and in order to check that, we have to check the coffin result. In this case, it would only happen on a result of 1 because there's 1 coffin there. And in this case, we have a 4. So it will not occur. There's no combat going to occur there, at least. That's great. Same thing will happen for Mina and Arthur Holmwood in St. Luke's. This one is another 3 coffins there, so we'll draw a card checking the coffin result, and if it's a 3 or less, there'll be combat. Coffin is a 3, so they will have combat in that location again. So we're going to resolve the combat in St. Luke's. So the first step in the combat is to determine the undead's type and strength. So we have 3 types on the vampire display, so we'll look at the 3s. And in this case, it's a number 2, and that's going to be the infected. All right. So the infected have a combat strength of 1, and since that is a red circle, they're able to take a bonus from the token that this is being resolved in this case, +3 for the 3 coffins. So their strength is going to be a 4, and I'll mark that accordingly. We'll mark that with a 4. Next, we have to determine the hunter and their strength. So in this case, we can select either Mina or Arthur to be the target. And I think we will select Arthur. He has a combat value of 1 plus the best weapon out of those in the group. So 3 for Mina's revolver would give him a strength of 4 as well. So we'll mark him with a 4. Next, we determine whether Renfield is at Carfax Abbey or not. He is not, so we get to go first. So Arthur combined with Mina's pistol, we're looking for a 4 or less. And here is the result. Okay, we are looking at the column 6, which is where the dice is. It's a 1, so we've hit that creature. And I got that wrong. We're supposed to look at the bat result. Bat result is a 2. That's still less than the 4, so we've still inflicted a hit on the infected. That hit is going to drive it away. So we've won that battle, which is great. So that initiative is very important because if you're able to stave them off, they don't even get a chance to come close to you and inflict a wound. So we've won that battle, driving them off. So in this case, we've at least contained the plague by isolating the location of these 2 locations with coffins. So that's a good thing. So we've taken all of our standard actions. Now we're going to get our bonus actions. Everyone is able to move except for Lucy, which she has a wound. So I think what we'll do is, knowing what we know, we're going to have Mina and Holmwood move into Mile End Old Town, and we'll have Morris move into St. George on the east, and we'll have Dr. Seward move into Limehouse. And incidentally, with movement during the bonus actions, you're only allowed to move into an adjacent space. You can't travel, so more than adjacent. So we go through the same procedure. We're going to unveil all of these plague locations, turning them into coffins, and then we'll find out if there's going to be combat there or not. We'll start with Dr. Seward. Dr. Seward has found 2 coffins, so we'll see if there's going to be combat there. So we'll check the coffin column, and it's 2. So there will be a combat there with Dr. Seward. So Dr. Seward is equipped with a dagger, and we'll find out who his opponent will be. Draw a card, and we're going to look on the 3 column. There's 3 entries on the vampire display. And in this case, the 3 column is 3, and that's going to be Count Dracula himself. Well, the Count, he has a combat value of what question mark. It means whatever his token is on, and currently it's a 3. So he has a strength of 3 for the moment. And in addition, he's going to gain a bonus for the 2 coffins of +1, so we'll move him up to a 4. So he has a strength of 4. Dr. Seward has 1 to start with, +1 for his dagger, so he's not doing too well against Dracula himself, which would be understandable. So we'll give him a 2. And we are going to be starting the combat. We have the initiative as long as Renfield is not in Carfax Abbey. So we'll draw a card and see what our strength is. We're looking for a 2 or less. So we'll check the bat column and see if we are successful, and we are. He has a result of 1, which is less than his strength, so he's won the battle against Dracula. So in this case, we're going to deal a point of damage to Count Dracula, and he'll move down the track 1 space. If Renfield was at Carfax Abbey, he would absorb the hit for Dracula, and we would have to fight at least another round. So we'll move Dracula down, and now his strength is reduced to 2. And now we'll see what Morris discovers in St. George in the east. That's 2 coffins as well. So we'll look at the coffin result and compare that. In this case, it's 2. So there's going to be a combat there in St. George in the East. So we've got Quincy Morris. He's going to have his regular 1 combat value. And he'll get a +3 for his best weapon. So that's going to put him at a 4. We'll figure out who his opponent will be. We'll draw a card and check the 3 column. In this case, it's a 3, so that's going to be Count Dracula himself. The Count currently has a strength of 2. He gets +1 for the 2 coffins. That'll give him a strength of 3. So we will conduct the combat and see if we can win this. Morris is looking for a 4 or less. Okay, here is the result. We use the bat result, and he's got a 2. So he is successful. He has staved off Dracula. So once again, Count Dracula is going to have his counter moved down the track. He's lost. So this will move the count down to space 7. His strength is still at 2. And now we'll check Mina and Holmwood in Mile End Old Town. And there's 2 coffins there, +0 to combat. Let's see if we're going to have a combat. Okay, the coffin symbol is a 1, so it's less than the number of coffins, and we will have a combat. All right, so let's determine who our opponent will be. Draw a card and look under 3. In this case, it's Dracula again, another 3. So the count is up. He has a strength of 2, but he gets +0 this time for the coffin, so he is simply at a 2. We are going to elect to have Arthur Holmwood be the target, and he's going to get the benefit of the best weapon of both characters that are involved. So in this case, it's a 3. He gets 1 for his normal amount. That moves him up to a 4. So we will see how this goes. Draw a card and check the bat symbol. Bat symbol is a 3. That's less than his, equal to or less than his combat total. So he has defeated Dracula. So Dracula will move down the track again, down to 6. He still has a combat strength of 2, but it's getting closer to 1. All right, so that completes the action phase. We move on to the marker adjustment phase. In this case, we have a miasma token up in Bethnal Green. So that is going to be replaced with a plague token. If there was a character in that location, it would be a coffin, and that would institute a combat. So that'll complete the marker adjustment phase, and we'll go to the end of the turn. In this case, we are in an extended period. We have a 2-value night token. So what will happen here is we're going to have an extended night situation. We're going to move this marker to turn 4, and we're going to flip that to its day 1 marker instead. So that'll be day 1 on turn 4. But now we have an extended night situation. We're going to move Dracula's strength marker up 1 space on the track. In addition, Dracula is going to attack the hunter with the most bites. If tied, he will attack Lucy before checking for a random victim. All right. So the Count's strength will move back to 7. He has a strength of 2, and he's going to attack Lucy. Lucy is currently in Clerkenwell. So Count Dracula will attack Lucy in Clerkenwell. Dracula's current strength is a 2. Lucy has no weapons other than her cross. She has a cross, and that'll give her just what her standard combat value of 1. Now, since Lucy has a cross, it can be used to cancel the undead's current attack. The hunter will still attack. We tip the cross to mark that it has been used. So she's going to use that cross, and then we're going to launch an attack on Dracula. And her strength is only a 1 though, however. So we'll check the bat column, and in this case it's a 5, so she has missed. But it's enough to cancel that attack. So we're going to fight another round of combat. This time Lucy will not have the cross available. Renfield is in Purfleet Asylum, so she will be going first, and we'll draw a combat card for her, checking the bat symbol. This one is a 4, so she's missed. Now Dracula will strike. He has a combat value of 2, and he's done it. He's got a 1, so he's successfully attacked Lucy. All right, Lucy already has a bite, and she's received another one, so we flip that cross to another bite. Right now she has no movement capability, and she has to flee, though, the battle. So Lucy has to flee the battle, and she's going to return to her home location. Unfortunately, that already contains some coffins. So she can flee to any other home location, and I guess she will flee to Chelsea, which is the home location of Quincy Morris. And so that would bring the turn to a close, and we would continue on with turn 4. I think I'm going to end the example of play here, and we'll talk about what we think about the game. So what are my thoughts on the game? Well, Plague of Dracula succeeds in capturing the eerie atmosphere of Stoker's novel, along with the fog-laden streets of Victorian London. The map encounters immediately set the tone, while the event cards weave a suspenseful narrative that keeps each turn unpredictable and engaging. I especially appreciated the built-in randomizer on the event cards. It seems to heighten the tension during searches and combat in a way that feels more immersive than simply rolling dice. With that said, I think the experience could be improved if they included a dedicated player aid card and a more fleshed out sequence of play. Having those charts and tables at hand would reduce the need to constantly refer to the rule book, and that would keep the game's momentum kind of moving forward. And while they do include examples of combat and the plague spread in the rulebook, a full turn walkthrough would have been invaluable for new players, offering guidance on early strategy and pacing. Overall, I found the game suspenseful and full of interesting decisions. It's perfect for the solitaire gamer. Even after just playing 3 turns, I can tell that this design will be a demanding challenge, one that rewards persistence and careful planning. I'll likely be returning with a full playthrough of the game once I've explored more of the game's nuances and strategies. So I hope that this overview of components, setup, and sample play has helped you to decide whether Plague of Dracula deserves a place in your collection. So, thanks for joining me. This is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club signing off and wishing you a pleasant evening and a good night.